Hello, everyone. You heard right. We actually had two new OSU BNs join the team as probationary nominators yesterday on the 28th. So, kind of really early in the year to have some new nominators. And it's been a long time since we've had new nominators come through the just the basic application process, right? A lot of our nominators in the last 2 or so years have come through the BN mentorship program, which is where members of the NAT mentor prospective BNs directly into the BN. And it's sort of like its own pathway in that after two to 3 months, you generally sort of get a ticket in if your performance was good enough. Now that process may change a little bit in the future, but that's how it has been in the past. Both Zawajiro and Hazy, congratulations to them, applied through the normal application process. So they went in, applied, and 2 or 3 weeks later, after an evaluation process, they were accepted. Now, the both of them, while they did get in through their own methods, that doesn't necessarily mean that they got in with no help at all. I'm not sure about Zawajiro's history, but Hazy, I know, was mentored by Electaz and Mochaotic. So they certainly had some mentorship, but not through the BN mentorship. So either way, congratulations to them. You can see Hazy's profile right here, a BN from the UK, it looks like. And you can see what their requests and stuff are all about. And Zawajiro is right here from Vietnam. And they have some BN information here now. Awesome. So again, they just got in, so now's a great time to go and request them. Make sure that they get spammed by all your requests. I'm sure they have probably 50 to 100 already. It's a great time. Now, in the rest of the video, because Hazy has made his application public, I thought it might be fun to go and look through some of these mods, very cursory glance at them. And you can access to this evaluation by going to evaluations on the bn.mappersguild.com website, going to the public archives, and you'll see Hazy's application right here. I did go through Hazy's map 1 in a previous video, so I won't go through that one today. I had a lot to say about it, but with the caveat that I only saw one of the mods out of the 3. So even though I was kind of 50-50 on, whether I liked the mod on Beatmap 1, that doesn't, I did not evaluate Hazy. I was not part of the evaluation team for him. And I only saw one map, right? So the other BNs, or the other NAT rather, may have very well liked his Beatmap 1 mods more than I did. They may have also liked them less, but it also could be that Beatmap 2 and Beatmap 3 really impressed them a lot more, and that kind of outweighed maybe some mediocre Beatmap 1 performance. I have no idea. I'm not going to make any statements there, but it's always nice to go in and try to learn from what the successful applicants are, and especially because they're so rare. The actual application, acceptance rate is very low for people who do not go in through BN mentorship, and who, especially those who haven't been mentored into that position by somebody outside. And in the case of Hazy, they were mentored by a member of the NAT, but unofficially, or officially through the mentorship program of the community mentorship program rather than the BN mentorship program. So anyway, as you can see here, we have some these are the maps, the OSCs, of the version of the map that they modded, which is what they get evaluated based on. And we can look here. Let's take a look. Title, great. We're updating metadata, and that's correct. Timing, some sort of other things here. The darkness of combo colors is an actual ranking criteria guideline. Audio, modding audio. So tons of really great, and I'm not looking at whether they're accurate necessarily in this video, right? But I'm assuming that because he got in, that they are accurate because the NAT wouldn't have accepted him if he's giving a bunch of garbage stuff. So these are all, I'm going to assume, going to be accurate. Timing. Wow, this is a whole heck of a lot. And they got the English and pop tags, which are required. So, although the song is Japanese, so, it's kind of a... It's not really necessarily required by the ranking criteria if it has English, even though it's primarily Japanese. I think you only need one language tag. I could be wrong on that. So, yeah. So, really great general posts here. We can take a look... we'll start from the top diff, I suppose. We have general posts. So general posts that, let's take a look. They apply to some isolated parts in the map, but they're comparing it to other parts, which is a really great thing to see. We really like to see that you can apply sort of concepts from one part of the map to another part, especially if the mapper agrees. That's a really good sign. And it's about contrast, which is good. So it seems like that would likely have improved the map. And a triple, yeah, some good contrast related stuff. Back and forth movement stands out, but there's not really anything special. Some consistency related things, that's good. My map did not open. Let's go ahead and open that up. All right, so let's take a look here. Triple. Okay. From the next. So I think he wants a triple here. Yeah, I could see that being good, because there's like some subtle change in the synth there. That's cool. It's back and forth, stands out. But there's not really anything special in the song going on. Interesting. Okay. So I think he just wants more triangle type circular movement here. And that is a lot of circles today. And to be clear, this is his would not nominate. So the reason that this map is not ready for nomination in his mind is because of the problems stemming through most of the set. There was a lot of rhythm problems leading to overall contrast issues present and other aspects like pacing issues. The top difficulty had an issue where the intensity became too much when compared to how they mapped earlier, due to a lack of rhythm variety in spamming circles, personal qualms with things like the hard difficulty having a bit too low of an SV, and the stacking issue put forward on the insane difficulty could be applied to the hard, but I chose not to mention it because it would end up being too hard for the hard diff with the low spacing, low SV, high spacing idea. Technically would have changed the entire map. So that seems good. The map in general, I think, does not reach the quality needed for the rank section. So, that's good. Wait, there's an Akitoshi diff for some reason. What do they say on the Akitoshi diff? Nothing. Okay, cool. So that's good that we're not modding things that don't need to be modded. I love that. And this seems like a very well-structured post. So it's very easy to read. Both sections have high and low intensity within themselves, but the same spacing and rhythm choice don't distinguish and emphasize the different intensities. Oh, okay. I see. So the song has high and low intensity within itself, but the map does not. So let's take a look. So this is on the expert difficulty. This seems like a very well-structured and reasoned mod, honestly. So this versus this. Yeah, so the ladder's intensity is slightly weaker, but the spacing is the same, it doesn't differentiate them. And then in terms of rhythm, the ladder has a vocal. Yeah, so the ladder does have a vocal. It's a little bit more dense there in the vocals, but it's the same rhythm. So yeah, honestly, this is like a very solid, well-structured, well-reasoned. It's not overwhelming. Maybe they could have been a little bit more specific with what changes they suggest, but depending on the mapper's experience level, I don't know how experienced this mapper is, but depending on the experience level of the mapper, maybe they don't need to, because the mapper is already experienced enough to handle that. Broken stacks, that's fine. Two circles. Follow the scream. Sure. Same rhythm. Cool. Similar spacing. So these are all generally following a very well-structured problem, reason, and solution format, which is really good. And Control G the rhythm to follow the melody. Cool. So that seems reasonable. Moving on to this. And they're saying that this part is underwhelming. And this is actually on this difficulty. Yeah, I could see that being somewhat underwhelming, depending on what the rest of the map is doing. So this is a relatively intense part as well. Yeah. So I don't know if that's the same thing. But it's kind of the same intensity as this part here, it looks like. I could see this being valid. Comparable, much less intense parts like this. Yeah, that's reasonable. Okay. I mean, the mapper clearly agreed, so that's good. There's an emphasis with the way you use stacks. Your stacking logic can seem confusing because it's not consistent. It makes the emphasis confusing also. Is the emphasis on 4 or 5? Well, based on how it's mapped, I would assume 5. Well, I actually think that the stack does already map or emphasize the 5, given that it's a stop in movement. I mean, both are kind of emphasized in different ways. And this one was the... okay. Decent emphasis ideas in this one. I'm not sure how much I agree with this one, but it seems fine. Some of the spacing in the key eye is too low. Yeah, it does seem quite low. Yeah. For how high the SV is, I would expect this to be bigger. So that seems good. And the mapper agreed with all of them. So they actually remapped it. And generally a sign of a really good mod is one where the mapper is willing to remap as a result of it. Not always, but that's a good sign. 1/2 circles plus rhythm. It is the same rhythm here. Okay. That's good. Hard to read. Yeah, this is a little bit of a strange pattern, for sure. I mean... it's like 4.8 stars. So that's probably okay. In terms of the reading aspect of it. But I don't even know why it's in seed here. That's like the weirder part. At the end of the day, I think that this kind of just looks accidental, all of this. So I see that it's good. The song gets more intense, but the decrease in density does not really represent that. I don't know if I agree with this one either. I think that's kind of a nice rhythm that he chose, but sure. And then the hard diff here. Low diffs are generally a focus point on BN apps because they're really easy to screw up. And a good or a very bad, like low quality low diff is far more damaging than a low quality extra diff, right? Where, you know, we're talking about players who are newer to the game who need some protections. You can call them maybe vulnerable in some ways because they can't really advocate for themselves necessarily. And as a result, we prioritize the low difficulty modding maybe a little bit higher than we would on, say, an extra, where there's a lot more leniency in the difficulty elements and how difficult things can be and how complex things can be. So it's common error, like easy place to screw up on the hard diff stuff, hard and normals and easies. So having the same rhythm for almost 10 sections, the vocals have a lot of more variety. So this just seems like improve the quality of your map by following more things. And it is sort of spamming the exact same rhythm. Wow. So that seems like a really nice post, where it just kind of repeats the exact same rhythm over and over. It's a good quality improvement. Nice. It's the same rhythm as the rest of the part. Like that and this, despite being different. Okay. I don't even know if I hear it myself, but it's well reasoned for sure. Yeah, cool. So this is their would not nominate, and what was the last one here? You don't think that you would nominate this either. The difficulty jump of the hard was way too big because it used difficulty aspects together, such as high SV spacing and dense rhythms on 205 BPM. My brain is not interpreting this correctly. The difficulty jump was way too big, which gives me light insane vibes. Okay. So let's see. They mentioned that there's going to be a difficulty spread issue. So let's take a look. Do we get a general post about that? This hard is a bit too difficult, causing a gap between the normal and hard to be big. You know, just blindly looking at the star ratings, I could see how that could be probably the case. Nerfing density to be closer to a hard because it feels too 1/4 heavy. Triples in the verse could be nerfed by undermapping 1/2. Yeah. And there's images? Oh my goodness, this is a very nice post. So it makes it easy to understand, very easy to apply because there's nice images to work with. Let's take a quick look at the hard. So yeah, this does seem pretty fast. And the BPM is 205, so this is extremely dense for 205. Then we look at the normal here. Okay. I think that the spread is kind of okay-ish in terms of that gap, but I do agree that this is a little hard for a hard diff. So it's good that they modded that out. Feels one too heavy. The verse sections have these triples. It's actually hard to tap. This is true. That is a fairly hard pattern for this difficulty. Oh, yeah, I totally agree with this one. Yeah, that's going to be really confusing to read and play. Yeah, absolutely. 100% on that. Lower the spacing of the key as well. That seems reasonable, yeah. I think that the movement is quite fast. So, 100% agree on that. Nothing really on the normal, which is good. And on the insane, let's take a look. Okay, some HP stuff. These kinds of subjective mods are really solid, or really reasonable if they have, because they've clarified that they don't really personally agree, and here's just a suggestion for something that they would like more. That's totally fine. Even if the mapper rejects it. Like, hey, it doesn't matter. You made it clear that it's not a required change. It's just you personally like it more in this other way. Yeah, so you caught something that the mapper totally agreed with. And then some building up concept here. I think it was this one that we were looking at. Yeah, I actually do agree that the building up concept would have worked really nicely there, and the mapper agreed. That's good. Share. Clean diff. Cool, moving on. Share's a relatively experienced mapper anyway, so I believe it. The difficulty has some issues due to lack of contrast, which makes the map monotone. Intense sections, so we're comparing some different sections here. Use similar spacing and rhythms to calmer sections, so we're comparing across the entire map two completely different sections. There's a clear difference in intensity that causes it to have low contrast. Suggests a clear and easy solution of nerfing spacing for the calmer section and lower the SV. And rework the rhythms to be more passive. So two different ideas to make that a little bit better. And additive rhythm doesn't have supporting hit sounds. So yeah, so having the mapper and not modding out the additive hit sounds, because the additive hit sounds are fun, or I'm not adding out the additive rhythms, but giving a suggestion to make the additive rhythms work better is a really great way of approaching that instead of trying to mod them out completely. Because the additive rhythms totally can work. Yeah, like these streams make perfect sense for what's going on in the background, but you know, when they don't have hit sounds, they sound very silly. And unsupported. So totally agree with that. That's great. 10 sections. That is quite large spacing. That's good. Oh, wow. Yeah, so those look very similar, so 100% agree. Adding a finish. Cool. Yeah, a finish would make it a little bit cool. Jump space spaced very similarly. Yeah, so we have like really big jump spacing into more really big jump spacing. So there's not really that change. We've established the big jumps here, and then when we go into the more big jumps here, we've already started the big jumps, so we lose the contrast moving into the different vocal phrase. So I do agree with that. Turning this a triple. Cool, yeah. So this, again, sort of creating that rhythm separation by making that a triple. That sounds perfectly reasonable. I'm not sure why this is NC'd. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Missnapped. Okay, suggesting a simplification. That's fine. 1/4 gap. Or 1/1 gap, rather. That is indeed a 1/1 gap. I think the 1/1 gap is kind of fine, but I can see that reasoning there. Sure. So, in general, it shows that they... I mean, this was obviously a successful application. There was a couple things I disagreed with personally, but overall, as you can see, it's not the end-all, be-all that I have to agree with everything that they said, because clearly they got in. And what we want to see is that you can improve the map, properly justify your posts, and you cover a variety of difficulty elements, a variety of mapper skill levels, and sort of show that you have the breadth of experience to go out in the wild, basically, and sort of nominate maps on your own without having to be supervised. So I think that they did indeed show that in the application. So obviously, now they're in probation. They have to nominate 3 maps, I think it is. It might be 4 now. So they nominate whatever amount of maps, 3 or 4, in a month. And then they get evaluated again based on those like 3 or 4 nominations, or maybe more. There's no cap on how many they can nominate. And once they achieve that, then they move on to being a full BN, or if they had a bad disqualification ratio, like if they got an unrank or something like that, that's probably going to be a kick, but we don't obviously hope for that. We hope for the best. The entire BNG is here to support you, Hazy, on your journey to be a great BN. So if you have any questions, now that you're in the BN server, you can post in the #help channel, and other BNs can, and NAT, of course, can help you. You were also assigned your NAT buddy, Navi, to help you. Here's the feedback that the BNs gave. So they welcomed the probation. Welcome to being a probationary Beatmap Nominator. We felt you overall did well. Some areas that we want you to be careful of and continue to improve on in the passcode set, which was... which one? Right. So because it was on a map that you were planning to nominate... Am I understanding there? Oh, so this is the passcode. Okay. Passcode's the artist, not the song name. So on this one, there was some rhythm stuff on the top diff, and not in the expert. Cool. So yeah, definitely compare those two, especially if it's both were mapped by the same person. So it's very common for both to have similar issues. For Shares GD on Girls Legend, we felt that there's spacing issues that could have been mentioned, and here's some spacing issues. You already have other similar issues, so you already know how to go about it. Okay. So yeah, we felt you can cover a wide variety of mapping, or they wanted to see Hazy cover a wider variety of map styles. So a lot of them were indeed similar in style. And so that's for people watching this who are considering applying to the BN. Make sure that you try to cover a variety of mapper styles. You don't want all sort of aim farm or like sort of that generic style that Hazy gave. And there's more, of course, in the individual evaluations below that you can go check out on your own. I won't spoil everything in the evaluation. So hopefully this kind of made sense. Again, congrats Hazy and Zoajiro for your pass. And hopefully we see some more new BNs in the future. All right, cheers.